Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. This is episode number 131. Frustration happens. I wish I could tell you how many people I've been with, including my own self, who've been dealing with a lot of frustration in life as of late. And I'm going to talk to you about the manner in which some people handle frustration, so maybe you'll hear yourself in this conversation. Some people get upset. They slam things around and they fuss and they fume, and I'm not putting up with this, and they get up and walk out of the room or leave the house. They want to get away or they want to be ticked. Some people cry. A particular person I was working with recently just broke down crying their guts out. They were so frustrated. I can't do this. It's not going right. Yeah, really, really cried. Some people verbalize, man, I can't believe you did this to me. Wow, I can't believe this happened. And it's all coming out of their mouth. Guess you can imagine that I'm kind of one of those people. Some people get real huffy, you know, and they just have this attitude and they blast it all over everybody else. Some people get confused. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And they get kind of, perplexed, and this frustration just wears on their mind. Yeah, people have a lot of responses to frustration. And over time, if you stay frustrated and you're not handling frustration very well, it really does bad things to your body. It's another kind of stress. So your cortisol levels go up, and your serotonin, your endorphins, the positive hormones get chewed up and dissipate. It's really not a good experience, and it does not do good things for your body. Your heart rate will speed up. Your blood pressure will go up. It's just not really great long term. And some of us have long-term frustration. Let's be truthful. And the best thing we can learn to do is not only recognize that frustration happens, but learn how to handle frustration. My challenge question for you today is this: how do I handle frustration? Right? Because you need to know how you handle it. And then when you say, I'm one of those people that gets really angry, or I get really perplexed and just confused in my mind, or I'm one of those people who has a bad attitude and I'm real huffy and I blow it all over everybody, or I'm a person who verbalizes it out loud and sometimes people get sick and tired of hearing it. And yeah, how are you handling frustration? Or you're crying and people don't really know what to do with you, and they're not sure, because it's not that you're sad and they can comfort you. It's that you're frustrated out of your mind and your response is to cry. All of those things are legitimate ways to handle frustration. I'm not telling you they're bad or wrong. I'm saying to you there are some alternative available things that you can do, different behaviors or different ways to handle your frustration response that might in some ways be helpful or more positive. And that's what we're going to talk about. In all actuality, frustration happens. You're driving down the road. You're supposed to be at the doctor's office in 15 minutes, and suddenly, smack dab in front of you, the traffic stops. What's really frustrating is you get 3 or 4 miles down the road, there's nothing there. Just all these people decided to stop on the middle of the interstate. Yes, that did happen to me the other day. It's so frustrating. Like, just drive your car, people. If you'd all drive 30 miles an hour, at least we'd be driving. I'm not sure why we're parked in the middle of a United States interstate, right? It doesn't even make sense. Yeah, that's frustrating. When things that are supposed to happen aren't happening, when things which aren't supposed to happen are happening. Yeah, that's pretty frustrating. You're learning a new skill and you're not very good at it, and you've been doing it for a while now. And a couple days ago when you did it, it was going great. And now today it's going crummy. So I was doing a crochet lesson, and the person whom I was teaching started getting all these knots and all these tangles, and they're crying their head off like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I could just do this the other day, and look at me, I'm stupid. And this is what I said to this particular person. I understand that you're feeling frustrated. I understand that it is upsetting you. Anytime we learn a new skill, it is going to be a learning curve, and that learning curve isn't always straight. Along the way, we're going to hit some hiccups, and we're going to have some bad days. We're going to struggle with certain aspects of the things that we're learning. We need to cut ourselves some slack, okay? So there's one thing. Cut yourself some slack. Everybody struggles. Then I'm going to talk about this one. Okay, so we had a dinner together as a family, and a couple people were already having a challenging day because of other issues, and a couple of the kids were acting up. Some of the grown-ups were really frustrated. I need more help in the kitchen. I need you to sit down and have a conversation with me. I mean, after all, we don't get together that often, but you're busy doing this and this and this, and you're not coming to spend time with me. So their expectations weren't being met. Yeah, there was a good bit of frustration going on. People handled it differently, but there were a few people that didn't handle it as gracefully as they might have. And I have a friend who has a young person they've been mentoring, and that young person is consistently doing things they know are not good for them, and that their mentor has already discussed with them, and their mentor is experiencing a good bit of frustration. How in the world am I supposed to be handling this? I'm not their parent. I'm not their bud. It isn't my job to get on their back. And yet I can't let this slide without speaking up either, because that's not a healthy option. What in the world? What am I supposed to do with this? There are lots of times of frustration. Oh, and my good friend who has 4 children, and they're all different ages. They all have different needs. Every one of them, because it is summer after all, and it's their big hurrah to get their hands on their folks, are making all these emotional demands. And the mom has some major life changes going on. Let's talk about frustration and handling everyone else's frustration in the household too, or at least being expected to do so, because after all, you are the mom. That's your job, right? You get the idea. There's a lot of frustration. We haven't even gone to work yet because, Lord help me, Jesus, there's a lot of frustration at work, right? Your boss gives you all this work to do and an insane deadline. You couldn't possibly do it, but they still expect it to happen. And oh, yeah, your mom is sick and your kid needs to go to this conference for whatever. Yeah, as one human being, you can't hack it all, but your boss doesn't want to hear it. And so let's talk about setting you up for frustration. Or even let's talk about an equilateral relationship. You have a coworker and they're not pulling their weight, but you're on a project together. Somebody's got to do it. So guess who somebody is? We all know somebody's name, mine. And that's really frustrating, but you don't want to ream out your coworker. You got to be together for the next however many years. Oh, yeah. And you've already worked alongside this person for 6 years. They know they can be a slacker, and so do you. Yeah, life just has so much frustration. For real. Okay, you're a talker. One of the best things you can do is either find someone who's willing to listen, or go lock yourself in a closet or the bathroom. Talk to yourself for 5 minutes, but set a time limit. Get it out of your system if you really need to get it out. And don't worry, I'm one of these. I got to say it out loud most of the time. If I'm not in a position to do that, I can actually do it in my mind and let some of the pressure or the tension off. But someone who really needs to verbalize it and get it out, well, then go do that. Either have someone safe to do it with or do it with your own self, just so you said it out loud and then move on. All right, now let me tell you this one. The other one is if you're going to cry or if you're going to be angry. Those are often subsequent emotional responses to frustration. Of course, everybody gets it. But you can't sit down and cry for an hour and have a pity party, and you can't be so mad that you're breaking stuff and acting like a jerk and it goes on for days and days, when some frustrations go on for years. Let's be real. Your kids aren't going anywhere anytime soon, so yeah, I understand long-term frustration at times. But you need to say, even though this is difficult, even though I'm really frustrated right now, I can get through this. I can get through this. And you do what you have to do to get through it. So the person I was teaching crochet today that was really fighting and having knots and tangling things up said, take me a couple of breaths. This is always the first place you start. Calm down your system. Calm down your mind. Slow down your heart. 2 or 3 good breaths. Okay, let's look at it again with fresh eyes. Even though she was still crying, she was considerably calmer. I said, all right, we're going to take out this much, and there's nothing worse than ripping stuff off, having to go backwards and start again. Sometimes that's what you have to do if things are in a mess. And you go back, and you start again, and you persevere. So one of the ways to handle frustration is to persevere. You just keep going. No matter about your emotional state, you're ticked. Okay, great, but you still got to deal with the kids. You're upset, but you still have to deal with your boss. You're crying in the bathroom, and then you wipe your eyes and you wipe your nose and you go out there and you do what has to get done. One of the ways to handle frustration is persevere. You just keep going. Another way to handle frustration is address it. So in the story with your coworker who's a slacker, you say, look, this is not going to work. We know that you tend to let other people carry your slack. I can't do it. I have enough of my own. And so listen, here are all the tasks that need to get done. I ain't your mama, so I'm not going to tell you, but you're going to pick. We'll say you have 22 things, and you know they're not nearly as hardworking as you. You pick 9 or 10 of these things, and you're going to do them, and you're going to establish your own deadline. I'm not going to establish it for you. And if you don't meet that deadline, then I'm going to take this piece of paper to the boss. Because if you already agreed to do it and you did not, you're not doing your job. I might not be able to handle that, but I'm not going to let you keep on manipulating me into doing all of your work while you are getting a paycheck, just like me. You deal with that frustration. With your children, you deal with that frustration. They've been naughty all day. They've been whining and nasty and on your last nerve, and they know it, and they're not going to let up because, after all, they just feel like being that way today. And you look right at them at lunchtime and you say, listen to me very carefully. I am extremely frustrated, and you've been acting really, really badly. Every single one of you is going to go into your room, and you're going to have a half of an hour of quiet time. Oh, Mom, I can't believe it. You're so mean. Why are you doing this? I mean, indicative of how the whole morning has gone already, right? No, I'm telling you, you're going to go into your room. You're going to be quiet for one half of an hour. And if you come back out with the exact same attitude that you had before, you're going to go back in there for another half of an hour, because no one in this house is going to be putting up with your lousy attitude all day long. So every one of you, you go into your rooms, you have some peace and quiet, and when you get back, it's not going to be like this. We're going to have a great rest of the day. So deal with yourself. Oh, Mom, Dad, while they're gone, you deal with yourself too. For real. So sometimes you just got to address it directly and then address it with your own self. Okay, well, even though I was frustrated as well as the kids, even though I was frustrated as well as my boss or my coworker, we were probably all frustrated in this situation. I have no control over them, but I do have control over myself. And I'm going to deal with my own lousy attitude. I'm going to deal with my own emotional response, whether that's anger or crying in it, whatever that is. I'm going to deal with myself too. And you do. You can get a handle on it. In handling frustration, you admit that you are frustrated. You deal with that frustration. You persevere. Sometimes you talk it out with another person. Sometimes you have to deal with it by finding a solution. You know, sometimes there isn't a solution. Sometimes you're in the middle of that freeway, and honey, that traffic is not going to move, and you are going to be late to that doctor's appointment, and there is not a single blooming thing you can do to make that traffic go, because you are not go-go gadget, and you do not have a little set of rotators on the top of your car that can come out and you just fly over all those people. It doesn't exist. Believe me, I'd like to invent one, because many times I wish I had one of those. But you call the doctor. I'm stuck in a traffic jam. I am going to be 15 minutes late or so. I left way early, gave myself an extra half of an hour, and yet here I am in traffic, and I don't know why. So I will be there when I can get there. But again, you're handling it, see? So it can help dissipate some of that frustration. For long-term frustration, one of the best things you can do is acknowledge that it exists and do things to take care of yourself. You may not be able to stop all of the frustration, but you can make sure that you're exercising. You can go home and do 15 minutes of relaxation exercises. You can go read a book for half of an hour when you get home and quiet your mind. You need to do things about taking good care of yourself. Oh, and you need to stay hydrated and eat well, because being frustrated burns a lot of calories emotionally, and we tend to get focused on whatever's frustrating us, and we're not taking care of ourselves. And so when you keep eating correctly and you're hydrating your body, you're just doing your body a favor, even though you're dealing with the frustration. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this, and we've talked about it, and I'm going to repeat it to you again. You need to be in the now. If what's frustrating you is at work, when you leave work, leave it all there. Can you do your work from home? No. Can you handle your coworker from home? No. Can you do something for your boss at home? Generally, no. So leave your work there. It's a little more challenging with your children. I get that. You don't get to leave them. But then make allowances. Go on a date night every 2 weeks, bare minimum. So you're out of that house for a few hours. And when you are, you don't talk about the kids nonstop. You leave it where it is. Live in the now. It's a very, very helpful thing in handling frustration. In life, frustration happens. That's all there is. I can't change that for any of us. But you can really get good at handling frustration, and especially handling it internally. And then when those frustrating things happen, you just keep right on sailing along. I hope this has been really helpful for a lot of you. I thank you so much for being with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. I will look forward to being with you again soon. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.